Greetings, fam. Greetings, fam. It's me, Crystal Denise. I am here in Coldwater. Crystal Denise here in Coldwater at Restoration New Direction Culture Center. It is Monday, June 27th. And tonight I'm excited and I'm elated and I'm all things ready because I have a guest coming on in a few minutes. And we're going to talk about our book. But first, I want to share because it is June 27th, and I'm always looking at the calendar that we have created as a fundraiser for Ashe Academy that lists important dates, events, and such things that pertain to our story, right? So I'm looking at the calendar, and today, June 27th in 1872, Paul Laurence Dunbar entered the physical realm. And so I'm just going to read a little bit about Paul Laurence Dunbar because I think many of us don't even know that we have great poets, we have great writers, and it's so relevant because we're having an author, a writer come on in a few minutes. So Paul Laurence Dunbar was an American poet, novelist, and short story writer of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He was born in Dayton, Ohio, to parents who had been enslaved in Kentucky before the American Civil War. Dunbar began writing stories and verse when he was a child, and he published his first book of poems at the age of 16. Well, he first published his first poem in a Dayton newspaper at the age of 16, and he served as president of his high school's literary society. So his life story, his biography is very impressive and interesting, and I encourage you all to go and read more about one of our great ancestors, Paul Laurence Dunbar. His poems are written in using dialect, kind of like Zora Neale Hurston's "Their Eyes Were Watching God" book. So I really encourage you. We have a couple books here at the center that he has written, and then I think we have a book of his poems somewhere on the shelf. So if you are in the area, you can stop by and you can browse our shelf to read more about this grand ancestor, Paul Laurence Dunbar. Um, I came across him some years ago when I was cataloging a book of African American poets. That's one of the reasons I get so upset sometimes is because I get angry when I learn about things that I feel like we should be taught and we should all know at a certain age. And it's just a testament to how we are miseducated. And so when I learn, I love to share. It's that adage when one learns, when one teaches, two learns, and then one each one teach one. So that's what I try to do. I try to impart the information so that we can all know what's going on with our story and take control of the narrative so that we can tell our stories. All right. So we want to remember Paul Laurence Dunbar on his day, Ashe. And so I'm so excited about this discussion because this is we went down to Charleston, Mississippi. We took the Ashe Scholars down to Charleston last year during Juneteenth, and I wasn't fortunate enough to be able to stay to meet the sister when she spoke. But I still remember her smile in the front as our children were reciting the oath to the ancestors and Hey Black Child. And then, we linked up on Facebook and just started kind of keeping in touch, kind of networking with one another. And when her book, well, when it was pre-published, she left the link and said, "You all pre-ordered my book." So of course, I did because the title is so intriguing that it makes you want to, like what? So I ordered the book and I was so excited when it came in. I sent her a picture. I was like, "Hey, I really would love for you to come on and let's talk about your book and talk about some of the other projects that you are working on during the broadcast because I do a book discussion at the last Monday of each month." And so I'm excited to introduce you all. Some of you all may know her, some may not. And so it's my pleasure to introduce her to those who don't know her. Her name is Leslie T. Grover, PhD. She's a writer, scholar, activist, and narrative medicine expert. Ooh, we're going to talk about that a little bit too. She's the founder of a Sissy House, a nonprofit where she uses the power of stories and art to fight for social justice, create community programming, conduct public policy research, and educate. And so I'm going to bring on Sister Dr. Leslie Grover. And sis, it
Hi.
is such a pleasure to see your smiling face today. I'm excited about what we're going to be talking about and just in general, just excited.
Thank you for
So,
having me. I'm so excited.
so the first thing I would like for you to do is kind of elaborate a little bit on, a Sissy House and how you came about using your writing voice to bring awareness to what's going on.
Well, a Sissy House is it's a nonprofit organization, and we bridge the gap between research and practice. Because like there's a lot of theories, a lot of things out there, but they don't always work so well, especially in our communities. And so my organization does that. We do program creation, we do policy recommendations, we help people and organizations to walk through the muck and mire of law, of policy, and all of these different things. We do it through storytelling, because quite frankly, storytelling is how we all learn.
Mhm.
um, Excuse my cat Minu. He likes to be seen. But it's how we learn, it's how we process things. And also it's because so many of our communities have been abused by, unfortunately, the academy and people seeking grant dollars and people seeking to understand us or appropriate from us and do all of these things. And so, you know, that's why we use stories. And also, we are made of stories. That's how we do it. Stories are all around us. So that was sort of why the storytelling and the social justice art, is the basis for a CC House.
Mhm. And I see Sister Mila has come on, and she said the title definitely caught me as well.
Hi, sis.
So one and I love. I want to get into the book because I love this type. This is the type of literature I'm beginning to love and appreciate more of. The I would say I don't know, historical kind of novels, but then the short story you shared that you read aloud some of on Facebook, that that type of writing is where I'm beginning to love. But so I would like to know um what what influenced you? What if the benefits of eating white folk? And I won't lie, when I picked it up, I couldn't put it down. I read it, like, in an
Thank
hour
you.
and a half because I was so engrossed in it, and it's really a great book, y'all. It's the concept I love. I love the poetry in there. I love the illustrations, to kinda give you another whole 'nother twist and like life and interpretation of what is written. Um, so can you just tell us what how did you come up with that? That's very interesting to me.
So I do a lot of healing work,
Mhm.
and I do a lot of research, particularly on Black history. And in my historic, because as I was listening to you talk about Paul Lawrence Dunbar, he's an amazing writer. I love him. And yeah, if you're gonna read poetry by him, read We Wear the Masks.
Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
that's the one. Well, all of them, but that's the one. And it's because I was reading all of these things, and white people like to present Black people and African people as these savages, as these uneducated wildlings. When in reality, it's white people have been eating Black people at least since the 1200s.
Mhm.
um, and so when I was thinking about the character in the book that actually says something about this, I said, you know what? Let me just put it plainly. Let me just say what needs to be said. And then when I was thinking about the book, it's like I really, honestly, the ancestors gave me that title.
Mhm.
I really, and when I write, and I do write historical fiction, so when I'm in my writing process and I'm really trying to listen to the voices of the ancestors, they give me their stories. I feel like they inspire and they trust me with their stories.
Mhm.
So a lot of it comes from what I know are their experiences. And so I said, okay, what are really the benefits of eating white folks though? If if we if we really did eat white folks, what so that's kind of how the title came about. Like it was one of those things where I just said, I'm gonna just make this the title. And I have to tell you, a lot of agents and a lot of publishers turned it down.
I bet
They turned it down. So many told me that this is a great book, but we can't touch this one.
the title.
Yeah. And but
Mhm.
I wasn't gonna change the title. That was
Right.
I
I'm
was
glad you didn't because it really is something to think about because when you pick it up, it's like, okay. Because my daughter looked at it, she was like, wait, she did a double take. And I say, yeah, what? What is your comment? And she was like, that's just an interesting title. I said, yeah, it is. And that is because I was waiting when I was reading. I don't want to get a book away because I want people to buy it and I want you to read it and I want you absorb what is written because when I was reading it, it made me think about a book I talked about a couple months ago. They were her property
yes,
and the white
yes,
women slaveholders. And
yeah,
the whole narrative made me every time I would read, Perpetua talking. Is that how you pronounce her name? I
yeah.
don't know.
Perpetua.
Perpetua
Mhm.
read about her, her narrative, I would think about that book. And so yeah, and it just I wasn't surprised with the ending, when they found out what was happening to the enslaved children. It doesn't surprise me after having read Medical Apartheid
Yeah,
and some other things that we know have happened in our story.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to give it away, but I just want to tell whoever's watching the audience, you need to purchase this book because it's really thought provoking and it's well written and it's creativity. Use your kuumba uh, well. It kept me intrigued. I would say that, but I do want to ask you because I have started a couple books myself, and I find myself getting lost in the process and procrastinating
Yeah.
and just not having the energy because of what we are, the stories that we're telling or what we are trying, the messages that we are trying to convey. Sometimes it's overwhelming. So
Mm.
tell me, how do you keep the energy going? How do you keep the writing to flowing? How do you keep the process going?
Well, there are times because I am, as a historical writer, I'm focused on the era of enslavement and Jim Crow. The
Okay.
stories from there are horrific, and anything you can imagine, your worst nightmares, the nastiest, bottom of the barrel things that you could just imagine happening to people. Take your worst horror and gore movie has been done to Black people, and even worse. And so it's fascinating to research these things.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you have to step away from it because it can be traumatizing, learning about those things. So for me, so like right now, I'm working on my third book. I have a book of short stories coming out next year. Um, the publishers didn't want to touch that one either, but they did.
Uh-huh.
It's called Jim Crow's Negro Girlfriend's Diary, and it's all about Black women during Jim Crow, and it's fiction. And so the one I'm working on now goes back to enslavement, and the working title now is called Pretty Rebecca. So I write when I can, when I'm feeling the writing, when I know that it's gonna flow, when I know that it's when it's inside me and I need to get it out. But then when it's not, I don't. I honor that. I use that to do internal work. I use that to study history. I use that to do some good old self care. Like one of the things I love to do for self care is just to crochet a little bit. I'm just learning, but just something to help that link between your mind and your hands and your story. So I would say to anybody that's writing, we've been told, oh, you need to write every day. You should write
Mhm,
15 minutes every day. And if you
mhm,
don't write every day, you write based on your own process. Because I think one of the reasons it took me so long to, because I've been writing since I was a kid. Like I love to write. But
mhm,
I think the only thing that was keeping me from being able to like actually produce something was I was believing all of these rules for writing
mhm,
and process. And then when I wasn't doing those, I felt like I was not a serious writer. But they're simply not true. We need to decolonize our process. We know that creativity, just like the growth of our bodies and minds, comes in spurts. It comes and goes. Sometimes it goes really quickly and it's wonderful. Sometimes it slows down. Sometimes it actually regresses. Sometimes it digresses. So I
mhm,
would say to when you really are writing, lean into it, and those times when you think I have something that I want to write, but I'm tired and I don't feel well, record your thoughts.
okay,
Yeah, like don't even worry about writing. Just like use your phone or your computer or whatever. I had a I used to have this little app on my phone where I just would record and just be like, oh, Perpetua's going to, just things where you talking to yourself, and then you go back and listen to it in those moments when you have a moment, and then you think, okay, I see where my mind was and where I can go with this. That's what helps me.
mhm.
But in full transparency, no, I don't journal every day. No, I don't force myself to write 15 to 20 minutes a day, because that's not effective for my process.
Right, right. So I do want to recognize some of the people who are watching. We have Sister Mila on and Brother Patrick. And yeah, it does remind me because he was saying that your process and publishers not wanting to touch it because of the title of the book reminded him of Dr. Richmond's title, the House Nigga Politics of Oppression book,
Hmm.
and having the black clergy in Memphis, blackball it basically just because they hadn't read a page of it. They just saw the title of the book.
Yeah.
And then we had Sister Brenda, greeting Sister Brenda and Sister Cassie. So I was going to ask you prior, but would you like to read a passage from the book to share?
Yeah,
Um,
I would love that.
yes, what would be?
I Let's see. I should have had like a copy like in my hand,
And
but
everyone, we're talking about this. The title is "The Benefits of Eating White Folk" with Dr. Leslie T. Grover, and I'm so excited. She's a Mississippian as well. For those who don't know, that she's a Mississippian.
yes, I'm gonna always represent Mississippi. A lot of my books are set in Mississippi, and I want to say that I consider for Black Americans who have the shared experience of enslavement, for those of us whose ancestors were enslaved, that Mississippi is our Mecca. Mississippi is our homeland, and so I'm always gonna say something about Mississippi in most of my writing.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, you do reference Panola County in,
yeah.
in this book. Mhm.
So yeah, that's I guess that's a trademark. Like there's always gonna be something said. There's gonna be a Charleston, a Blue Cane, a Panola, something that when people who are from the area, they're like, oh, okay. But let me
Mhm.
say this: I do not use people's names. Like there was some people when they read the book, they were calling me and texting me like, "You calling my mama?" I'm like, "No, I wasn't
Right.
about your mama when I was writing this book."
Some people probably were reading it just to see if they were in the book,
Yeah, they're like,
Mhm.
"That's my auntie's name." I'm like, "Well, yeah. Now that I think about it, it is.
Right,
But no, this
right.
character is not based on your auntie. Give her my love, but no."
That's funny.
So yeah. Um I think that I could do I'm gonna read it because it's always the thing about this book is like it's always so like when you write something and then you step away from it a while and you come back to it.
Hmm.
It always is so striking that I knew that as a reader, I could always find something different with other people's work. But what surprised me about this process is I'm finding new things about my own work. And I'm like, what? This is like a mental process going on. So
Hmm.
I'll just share with you a little bit. And it says, the missus thought it was awful when the young mister gobbled those berries, grimacing and half spitting them out with a pss sound, making a mess in the kitchen. Still, she let them do what they pleased as usual. She sat grimacing while the sound young mister stood smashing the puffed out berries and leaving purple streaks all over the floor. Oh, Sarah and I looked at each other. Nobody could say a word to either of the young misters when Mrs. was there. With the weather so hot and damp, old Sarah had to make lemonade for the brother's wife to help with her warm spells. Yours is the only one she can drink, the missus bragged to old Sarah, as though this were a compliment. The truth was, the brother's wife preferred bourbon to lemonade, and often she mixed the two when she thought no one was looking. Old Sarah tried her best to prepare lemonade for the doctor and his guests, but she was trapped in the kitchen. Sound young mister slid across the floor on the sticky berry juice, stomping a few of the ones too soft for eating. It mixed with the mud from the puddles that were still on his feet, making a horrible, sticky, slick mess. Old Sarah shooed him gently, and the other young mister ran behind her, pinching her on her backside. He and his brother tormented old Sarah, one pinching her behind and the other one smearing blackberry mud. They only stopped when the missus came to the kitchen to check on the lemonade, fussing at old Sarah about her disrespect of the doctor's friends. So,
So I'm telling you, family, you want to purchase this book and read it because it is really it's a good book. I mean, I'm telling you, I didn't put it down when I started it. I finished it the same day. It's well written and it's so creative. You'll find story, you find a narrative, and then you have some poetry, and then you have some pictures, and I was going to ask you about the artwork.
yeah.
Did you do the illustrations?
No, the illustrations were actually done by this talented sister. Her name is Lisa Teasley. And she's amazing. And so my publishers, they, when we were going through the creative process of the book, they were saying, well, we want to add some artwork and we want to commission someone to do this art. And I thought, okay. And, you know, they were asking all of these different ideas. And I said, hey, benefits of eating white folks, why don't we make it like an old school Betty Crocker cookbook? You might notice it kind of looks like that. And
Mm-hmm.
this sister, she she read the book. She sent me a few notes and asked me a few questions. And these symbols at the end of in different places and near the poetry, she created these.
Wow.
And I was just blown away by her work and by her process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
This is one of my favorite ones.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So we had a couple people asking about where they can purchase the book. Can you give them that information real quick?
Yes. You can purchase the book online from Amazon, from Barnes and Noble, from IndieBound, from bookshop.org. Anywhere books are sold online, you can purchase it. Also, you can go directly to the publisher's website, Jaded Ibis Press. Um,
That in the comments.
so yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll add all that information in the comments, everyone, so that you can do that. So I want to talk about your what you're working on now. I know you had shared a snippet of something that you were writing. I don't know if that's in your short stories or if it's a novel that you have coming out, but can you share what you're working on as far as your writing?
Yes. So the one I shared the last time was a short story. Yeah, that was a short story from my book that's coming now, that's coming next year.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm working on now is really a full length novel, Pretty Rebecca. And this book, you know, sometimes characters don't leave you alone. Um, and as always, before I begin my writing process and during my process, I always thank the ancestors. I always ask for their permission. And this this book, how can I explain what it's even about? Again, we're going back to enslavement.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually showing the history of, we've heard of people called a child of the plantation. And these were the kids produced when those um, who treated our ancestors as property, um, had a sexual relationship, and produce children. Those are called children of the plantation. So the relationship between like Thomas Jefferson and Sally Hemings and others like that. And so this story is about a child of the plantation, but it's about her relationship with her missus.
Mm.
And what happens after her missus gets married and she goes to the plantation, leaving her missus's home, which she was adopted by her own family members, and now they move after her marriage, and what happens during their life together. I think one of the things that this book is trying to tackle is that when we talk, and this is particularly important even now when we talk about what's happening with Roe v. Wade and it being overturned. There are so many Black women um, and white women who want to stand together as sisters, but there's a nuanced relationship between white women and Black women. And you referenced the book, They Were Her Property. White women were exceptionally cruel to uh, Black women, whether they were enslaved or not, even free Black women. So that relationship is one that we really haven't unpacked in this country. We've tiptoed around it. We have white women who say, "Oh, I'm in solidarity with Black women, and I'm in solidarity with the movement." And 95% of them, probably 98% of them, are not.
Right.
In every major movement, when we look at when white women and Black women have tried to come together, we've seen the exact same thing. Black women's bodies and resources on the line, white women reaping the benefits. When we look in elections, when we see white supremacy that both of the political parties have anyway, we see that it's white women who are upholding the banner of white supremacy, even more so than white men. And so, like with Roe v. Wade, I'm just, when I see some white women out in the streets screaming and shouting, I'm like, you knew that this was going to happen. You had the power and the privilege to be able to act on this. And if you were really standing in solidarity, we would have never gotten to this point. Not that we can't fight on behalf of ourselves, not that we don't have the agency. We're the reason that we even have human rights in the first place, because we women, we were the first one to tell the world this anyway, that these are human rights issues rather uh,
Right.
than that, just that.
Mm-hmm.
But all that being said, the book is unpacking that relationship. We're unpacking that relationship between these two women, and what it actually means to be owned or to be considered the property um, of one. When one woman is considered the property of another woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a complex because you touched on it a bit in this book.
Yeah,
What happened after they become adults and she becomes the property of Mrs. and what happens with that. And so, it is a complex dynamic, because as a librarian, I work with around a lot of white women. And so some of the experiences that I can share would kind of surprise people, but you know, I tell people all the time that working in higher education has been a kind of a blessing for me to see how things work behind the scenes and how the system is built the way it is. It's
Yeah.
not by mistake, it's built that way. So, it's real interesting because it's still even though you go and you get your credentials and all these things, it's still that dynamic that is, they say, well, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. They play the same game as everyone else does. And so, but when you call them on it, here comes the tears and
Yes.
and all that. And so you have, it's just an interesting place to be. And you a lot of us as black women are afraid to express ourselves because we don't want to be portrayed as the angry black woman. Well, I'm at the age where I'm comfortable with who I am and I really don't give a damn. So I'm just gonna tell you what I think and how I feel. I'm not gonna leave any questions on the table. And that's that. And
Yeah.
so, I just that's a process though
Yeah.
that we have to get to. And I just appreciate you for talking and speaking on that because a lot of us don't understand that dynamic. Last month, I spoke on Dr. Weems' book, Africana Womanism,
Mhm.
and talk a little bit about that and what it means to define ourselves and not be defined by someone else and not ask to join the cause that really doesn't work for us, but creating our own cause. And
Yeah.
so, that has really had me thinking a lot. And I'm glad that you are bringing that to the forefront in your next novel. So, I'll be excited to read about that as
Thank you.
well. And greetings, Brother Mitchell. I'm glad that you could join us. He says, greetings, Sister Chris, Sister Leslie. Uh, but so that leads me to the next topic that I want to tell everyone about because Sister Leslie, she contacted us and said, I want to do something for the scholars. I want to do some type of project session with the people in the Ashe Academy, the children in the Ashe Academy and visual arts and some creative writing. And I was like, yes. So we are planning a summer camp around that. Uh, I had said the 18th, but we're gonna push it back to the night to the 19th. 19th that week, and just talk a little bit about some of the projects that you have planned to do with the children.
Yes. So it was really fun planning and thinking about the kids. One of the projects that I want to do, and these projects are projects that are like created with my nonprofit that we always do, and we're always using the black voices to create our work, and sometimes vulnerable voices such as black people from the disability movement and that
Hmm.
type of thing too, since their history is really tied to black history in a way. Many of our major Black history people, such as Harriet Tubman, did suffer from disability. So, we like to honor that part of our history too. So, one of the ones I mentioned, Paul Lawrence Dunbar, when we talked about we wear the mask. We're going to be doing a mask activity where the kids are actually going to be creating masks and using those masks to tell their stories and how they see themselves. It's really about cultural identity that they're going to do. Another one that I'm like perfecting right now, um, and I'm really excited about it too, actually deals with its scribble exercises. Um, and this is where you literally trust your destiny and you get rid of all of your senses and you scribble with your eyes closed. And when you open them, you create what you see from the scribbles. Um,
Mm,
we're also planning to do just some creative writing where we create like this community poem. And a community poem And I don't want to give this one away because I want y'all to participate in it too. But it's going to be a beautiful creation that the community did. And the last thing that I'm working on, although I really want us to create some tribal work where we're using our hands and where we're doing things. And so I'm trying to, I would like for us to create these little either images of these dolls or these dolls themselves. And so I'm working on how can I'm thinking about like doing the basics up front so that the kids will just be able to focus on the work of it. But if that one doesn't come the way I think it is, because I was looking at some of the stuff, because I test everything before we bring it to our own community.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm constantly getting feedback. So if something's not working or we need to do it, I'm always learning so much from that process as a researcher. So I really love that. And then if that one doesn't work, I do have one where we do a community collage together where everybody takes a tile and I ask them to think about words and think about things the way they see the world. And they
Mm-hmm.
create these. And at the end, each of us will have a tile, and those tiles will be put together to form a larger community mosaic.
Cool. So I'm looking forward to all of that, all of it, and I know our children will appreciate it very much. And what I would want, what I did was I opened it up to the community because I think the community at large could benefit beautifully from what it is that you have planned. And then we have some other things going on around it. You know, we have Sister Mila coming on talking about health and wellness. We have another sister coming on talking about the chakras. Our brother Ahmad is gonna come and do some chess with the scholars. So we have something going on, you know, from our usual time from 10 to 2. So if anybody's interested, we will have a virtual aspect as well because Sister Leslie is going to be joining us virtually. And so we were talking about it yesterday during our planning session about how we're going to format and how we're going to do everything. We'll be working out the details, you know, in between that time. But I just want everyone to know that you're going to be joining us for our summer camp the week of July
Yes.
19th. And so we're very, very excited about that. And so we had a few people come in while we were talking, and I just want to let you all know that we did discuss the benefits of eating white folks earlier, and we didn't do a lot of discussion about the content because I want you all to purchase the book and read it because it is great. And I'm sure everyone is watching will enjoy it. Brother Mitchell, I know you will enjoy it. You know, Sister Mila, I know you have a copy already. Sister Sade, get a copy. And I did leave some of the ordering information in the comments as well. So is there anything else you want to add, Sister Leslie, about the book, about yourself, about just anything? Just
I just am so. I want to encourage everybody listening just to support you all's work too, because I was so blown away by the kids the first time I saw you all in the work that you all were doing and that you are continuing to do. And this is one of the things that's so desperately needed because our kids are not being taught Black history. And some of us don't even know enough Black history because we should always be learning Black history too. And I just want to take a moment to appreciate and honor the work that y'all are doing, encourage people to donate. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm making a donation, not patting myself on the back or anything, but I'm just saying that, I'm doing it. I want you all to join me in doing that because this is really beautiful work. And I also just want to say that I think we need to continue having these discussions, particularly about Black women and us organizing ourselves because we have so much power. And right now, we keep pulling the Democrats out of the ditch. And the Democrats keep throwing us back in the ditch. And this already happened to us with the Republican Party in the 1920s and 30s. Happens now again, particularly now at the Democratic Party. And I was up this morning meditating, and I love Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mhm.
She inspires me, and I feel like I've been blessed with some of her embodiment in terms of she was a plain speaker, and I'm a plain speaker, and I just one of the things she created the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party,
Mhm.
and I think we have a lot to learn from Great Mother Hamer. This ancestor has given us a blueprint, and as Black women, I think it's time for us to step up to the plate. This ancestor has been calling on me. She has been bothering me in a good way, and I plan to continue to answer her call through my writing and my organizing work. So
And that's beautiful because we had the Mississippi on the Move initiative going where we go to these different black townships in Mississippi, and Indianola was, I think, the second top. And I told them, because I was like opened up and I said, I lived in Oklahoma City for some time, and when you travel through the state, you see these signs that say you're entering the Sac and Fox Nation or you're entering the Cherokee Nation. And I said, well, when I drove into Ruleville, we were entering Fannie Lou Hamer territory, right? So you can feel the spirit, her spirit. I grew up in Southeast Arkansas, which is 2 hours from Ruleville, and I didn't even know anything about her until I became an adult. And so that's one of the reasons why we Ashe Academy exists. But and so when I was there maybe 5 years ago, I was determined to go to the Fannie Lou Hamer Park because I'd never been, and it's right there in the community, and I think everyone should visit it. Just like when I found out there was an Ida B. Wells museum in Holly Springs, I'm like, okay, I'm 45 minutes from Holly Springs. I made it my mission to go to Ida B. Wells because, like you say about Fannie Lou Hamer, I feel like Ida B. Wells. I had to write about it every time I learned something. I told Sister Mila I had so many notes. I need to do something with these notes that I have because there's so much rich history and culture and heritage in Mississippi that is not even taught, not even known, that someone needs to tell our story from our perspective. And so I'm saying that to say I appreciate you for telling our stories from our perspective. Uh, you know, so in a way that makes people want to read them. Sometimes like people say, well, I don't want to read it, it's too hard to read, or I don't want to watch it because it's too hard to watch. But we have to. We
yeah,
have to because we have to take control of the narrative. So I appreciate you for everything that you're doing, your voice, your time, your donation. Yes, because she is putting her money where her mouth is. She's not just saying telling you all to do it. She's actually doing it as well. She's being an example and that we need. And we appreciate it because we appreciate everything because as people know, we don't seek out grants because we want to teach our story our way. We want to teach our children our way. We don't want someone to tell us how we need to do it. And so everything is appreciated. Again, this is Dr. Leslie Grover, and her book that we talked a little bit about the benefits of eating white folks is available on Amazon. And I did leave the ordering information in the comments because I want you all to purchase the book. It's an amazing story about Perpetua and her experience on the plantation and the sickness. There's a sickness that these white people are getting, these white folks are getting. And so it's interesting how the white people are dealing with it, how they try to handle it. And the benefits of eating white folks is explained in the last part of the book. And so, as I said, it's written very creatively. You have a perpetuous narrative. You have some poetry. You have some illustrations. A little bit of everything. And so I'm going to stop talking. And if there's any last any last comments you want to make, go ahead and we'll close it out. And I'm going to talk about what I'm going to be reading for July.
Sure. Again, I just want to thank you all for your support. Please count on the support of me and my organization. The same reason that y'all are real careful about who you accept money from is the exact same reason why I have an office with no furniture.
Right. All right. I understand.
But I do believe in the concept of community, and I pledge here and now and publicly too, for anything that we get, we're gonna automatically share with y'all. Um,
Oh,
yeah, we're gonna share it.
appreciate it. And I want to send a thank you to Sister April Hibbler. She just sent a donation in. So I appreciate that, Sister April. Very much. Everything helps. We have our own space, which is a safe space.
Yes,
And so we want to continue to provide that for our people. Right?
we have to.
We have to.
We have
Yes.
to. Our kids are being abused mentally in schools and not being told the truth. And I when I was in school, I was a smart kid. Lots of people might remember my daddy, Mr. Taylor, the mean one who taught chemistry. He's a genius,
Mm-hmm.
real for real, and he passed that along to me. And all my geniusness, I didn't know about Fannie Lou Hamer until I was good and grown.
Right.
You see, and we are not told the truth in our schools, which is why what you guys are doing at Ashe is just it's valuable. You're saving the Black community, you're saving lives, you're creating a future, and it's right there in our Mecca. Mississippi
Mm-hmm.
is our Mecca, and so I guess the last thing I just want to say is to everybody. First of all, thank and love and honor to you all for inviting me and for my work. Also, I give honor to the ancestors for all of us here. And again, I really am serious about Black women organizing. I think we got them. We already knew, looking at the messages from Roe v. Wade and all of these things. We already knew these things, but I mean, I'm old. I can't march 35 miles, but there are other things I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I can march 35 miles, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
And so we really have to work together, and we really have to continue to support one another, because at the end of the day, it was a Black community that gained our freedom. We liberated ourselves, and we're going to continue to liberate ourselves no matter what happens politically. But I just want to continue to say, Mississippi on the move, Ashe Academy, we need to continue to support. So I'm here.
Right.
Appreciate y'all.
Right. And one thing you see, because I was watching Brother Carl, he did an interview with he and uh Brother Jeff had Professor Small, Baba James Small on, and he was speaking about, the Black women, we had the power. And we had the power, and we give our men the authority to do what's needed. And so when we use our power and they have the authority, we can do this thing. We can liberate, we can revolutionize it, we can do what is needed to be done. So I do appreciate you for saying that and reminding me of what Professor Small said.
Yeah.
So yes. So we'll be looking forward to your book, and we'll have summer camp, y'all. Don't forget about the summer camp. Sister Leslie is gonna be with us the week of July 19th. We haven't worked out the details yet, but we know she's gonna bring
Gonna
the
be there.
mask making, the community project. Uh, so yeah, we're gonna be doing it up in a few weeks, and then we're gonna be looking for her second book that's coming out next year.
Yes.
Uh,
And I
what
want, oh, I'm
this?
sorry.
So, is the short stories or gonna be? Is that the one? And then Rebecca, is that
Yes.
yeah, okay? Okay, so we'll be looking forward to both of those. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and please pass the word about participation. And if anyone's experiencing any barriers to participation, let us know so we
Yeah,
can take care of that, because we definitely want to have as many people in the community participate. And I'm excited. Like I'm picking out supplies. I'm doing everything. I'm like, this is gonna be so much fun.
It
I think
is.
I enjoy more than the children, but
Yeah, because I'm going to get my granddaughter. She's with her grandfather right now, so I was like, I'm going to get Kenzie so she can be here, so she can,
I'm good.
be involved with that as well. So she's gonna be super excited about doing, the whole, especially the one where they're gonna just close their eyes and scribble.
Yeah,
That is gonna be right up her alley. So yeah, so tell your family, tell your friends. I know I'm gonna be spreading the word and doing some personal invitations. Um, as well because I know it's gonna be great. They're gonna have the arts, they're gonna have fitness, they're gonna have the chess, the creativity, everything that they don't usually get. So and then we wanna grow our Shay. We wanna grow um in our attendance and scholars and all that. Okay, so again, thank you, Sister Leslie, and I look forward to speaking with you soon, working with you, and keeping in contact so we can grow together.
absolutely.
Grow together. All right.
Thank
Thanks a
y'all.
lot. All
All
right.
right. Bye.
Until next time. So, family, I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. And I want to just talk a little bit about what I'm going to be discussing next month for July. Uh, what date would that be? The next book discussion. I won't have a special guest in July, but I will have one in August. So July 24th, I was talking with someone and I was speaking about educators and I came across this great ancestor. I think I have some Black history cards somewhere and I was looking through them and I came across Fanny Jackson Coppin and I was so intrigued by her story. She was born into slavery and one of her aunts bought her out of paid for her bought out of slavery. Whatever the right phrase is, I'm not it's not coming to me. But anyway, I started uh reading more about her and she was a very smart mama. She was fluent in a couple of languages and she taught mathematics and she taught a lot of different subjects. But she also wrote her life well uh, not her life story, but she spoke about some of her life experiences and reminiscence of school life and hints on teaching. And so I want to talk a little bit about her philosophy because she was one of those mamas ancestors that was determined to prove the myth of inferiority. She wanted to debunk that myth that Black children could not learn. And so Fanny Coppin, Fanny Jackson Coppin, we have Coppin State and Cheney State that she was instrumental in helping develop. So she is one of the people that I want to read and study and learn more about, as well as Marva Collins and Dr. Frances Cress Wilson. So those are three of the mamas, the ancestors, the great teachers that I look up to and want to study so that I can be effective in the work that I do. And in turn, we can be effective here at Ashe Academy in the work that we do when it comes to equipping our children. Also, I'm reading a novel, The Merciless Ones. This is the second in the series. The first one was The Gilded Ones. And this I'm really into this fantastic fiction or sci-fi or virtual. I don't even know what to call it because science fiction is it really science fiction now? But anyway, these books are set in Africa, and of course, it's a fictionalized country in Africa, but they're really good. So that's what I'm reading as well. And then the Soul Sisters Reading Ring, we're reading Carolina Built, based on the true story. I can't think of the ancestor's name, but it's okay. I'm not feeling the writing style, but I'm going to finish it. We read Memphis last month and haven't had a discussion yet. But those are a couple of things that I'm reading now. And like I said, I'll be talking about the Fanny Jackson Coppin book next month. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I was so excited about having Leslie come on and talk about her book. As I stated, I don't want to give the book away, but it does center around the story of Perpetua and this illness that's going around in the white, I don't even want to say community, with white people during enslavement. So if you don't have a copy, get a copy. You can read it. It's a really quick read, and I think most of you all will enjoy it. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Sister Mila. Thank you, Sister Carolyn, Sister April, Sister Tina, Brother Mitchell, Brother Patrick, and I know there were a few others on. I don't think some of y'all uh, said anything. Sister Sade, I do want to thank y'all for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing y'all again next month. Enjoy your evening. Have a powerful day. There's a fly in here that really is getting on my nerves. And peace, Brother Carl. I'm gonna go back and watch your live. So y'all have a good evening. Peace.